Well, hello. Welcome to Orchid Bloom's podcast. Welcome back, bloomers. I am your host, Orchid Brown, with Orchid Bloom's podcast. You can find me on TikTok, X, and Blue Skies at Orchid Eye Brown. September is now here, which is a new season, and for this week's podcast episode, we will be discussing mercy for monsters. This is a continuation of male sexual trauma podcast episode. During that podcast episode, I asked myself, why is it that society gives more grace to perpetrators or predators than the victims themselves? When I say victims, I mean male, females, and children. I don't want people to believe that victims are only females or children. Male can be victims too. When I look at female perpetrators or predators, sexual offenders, latest is Miss Maxwell and her boy Epstein. We didn't hear much about her. Yes, they talked about her a little bit, but I don't feel the engagement was as high as it was for Mr. Epstein. If you look at all the famous male predators or perpetrators, they are the topic of the conversation for years and will be the topic of conversation for years to come, even after they have passed on. Female predators are rarely given excuses. They are often demonized immediately, but, we move on past the topic because media tends to cover their stories briefly. They may get a special, and the victims get their 15 minutes of fame. They don't become long-term talking points in society. They don't gain notoriety in the same way men do. Once exposed, their social standing is usually destroyed and there are no glorified narratives around them. As for relationships, very few men want to be associated with them afterwards. No man is going to be given public notoriety for claiming a female predator or perpetrator. There's just no way. These females are going to have their relationships in private, and no man's going to want people to know that they're with this female person. For male predators, society creates layers of excuses. Childhood trauma, mental health struggle, boys will be boys. We make excuses. Male predators get more media attention, often with their careers, talents, or potential highlighted, such as athletes, celebrities, and leaders. These men are still desired by women even after exposure, such as dangerous, powerful, or romanticized in disturbing ways. If you look at how all these criminals in prison, especially those that are in for life, get letters and money being sent to them from fans, female fans who want to marry them and start a family with them. It's sick. It's really sick. It is disturbing. But they get a lot of women. I don't understand why women are so attracted to them. I wish I could. It's definitely a study that should be made. Because I would like to know why do y'all wanna be with a dangerous man that can kill you? Let's talk. Why are you asking for death? Why? The fame, anywho, their names linger in public conversations for years, sometimes even more famous after exposure than before. And I feel that because the media sometimes is so obsessed with perpetrators and predators and criminals and serial killers, people want to make a name for themselves. So they go on a killing spree so they could be one of those people that has their crime portrayed in a movie, a Lifetime movie, or portrayed it to the world, because there's more people watching this crap. And because more people are watching this crap, they already know they're going to be famous while they're in jail or after death. It doesn't really matter. But the fact of the matter is, media has made it so salacious and so odd and awestrucking to people that they're like, oh, I want to be famous, and the best way to be famous, if I can't be a singer or an actor, is to be a serial killer. so I can have my own special. And they can literally bring on these victims and their families and have them re-traumatize themselves again, and it just gives them fuel. It really does. So that's kind of what I see. Most serial killers these days, most people that are doing the worst, is because they want to be famous, and they know that if they do something so vile, media is going to cover it and they'll be in history. Now, when race enters the conversation, the treatment of male predators shift. The dynamic of Black male predators differ from white male predators. Let's break down the difference between the two. Black male predators, boys will be boys, become monsters. They are rarely excused as troubled young men, the way that white predators are. Media coverage is harsher and more condemning, often framing them as violent or dangerous from the start. Their crimes usually end abruptly, money stops flowing, opportunities vanish, and endorsements are pulled. Yet, despite the demonization, they still often attract women romantically, whether due to fame, power, or attraction to notoriety. Society ensures their fall from grace is permanent, with little chance of rebuilding. Now, white male predators often meet with layers of excuses. He was young, he was struggling, he made a mistake. I love the part where they try to add, oh, he comes from a loving family. They are working class citizens that contribute to the economy, and so please don't ruin their lives. I think I saw that a few years ago and I could not believe it. It's like, okay, are you going to take ownership for the fact that you raised a monster? He are the girl, and now you guys are trying to protect him. You were hiding him until they came and got him. And then when he's up there on the stand and you're fighting for his life, begging the judge, look at how hard our family is working. Please don't ruin his life over this situation, as if the R-ing of this girl meant nothing. I remember thinking, oh, you're monsters too. You're monsters too. And you raised a monster. The good news is this family felt that, there shouldn't be any consequences for the boys' action. Because again, if it was a Black or a Hispanic person, they would have been in jail for a very long time. And because they don't believe in consequences, and they went up there and they portrayed what they needed to portray to get him off, guess what? They did. There was no justice for the victim. None whatsoever. Media can humanize them, which is exactly what happened in that courtroom years ago. I forgot the actual boy, but it's somewhere in the States. I don't remember. The media stories highlight their talents, intelligence, and what they've lost because of this victim. They may still have business opportunities or financial backing, even post-conviction. Book deals, interviews, speaking opportunities. In this case, with that specific case where the teenage boy did that, I don't think his family would allow him to have book deals, interviews, or speaking opportunities, because again, they want to put that behind them. They want to secure his future. They want people to forget what their son had done. So that wasn't in the picture for him, unless, of course, he grows up and decides that, he's not making as much money as he did. He will have to come out to the world and let them know, oh, I raped that girl and got away with it. And thanks to my family, that wouldn't have been possible for me to avoid consequences. So let's do some interviews and book deals and speak on this so I can make more money. I need the fame. So he has an opportunity. He has opportunities. But the media definitely tried to sweep that under the rug very quickly after he got away with it. Again, to protect his opportunities, to protect his future successes. Society is more willing to separate the art from the artists, allowing them to maintain legacy despite predation. Romanticization continues, but it's paired with a safety net of privilege. There are always people willing to still work with them. Race does impact grace. We see this in many situations in life. A lot of people need to understand that systemic racism and how it shapes the public's lens of grace. White men with power and status. In the previous one, we were mostly talking about male who are maybe middle class or come from a middle class family and what privileges they have access to. But when we look at white men with power and status, I feel that they're more secure, more safe. Here is why. When convicted, they often disappear quietly, move away, retreat from the spotlight or brand because they're wealthy, they have friends, they're gonna do well for themselves. Regardless, their money never stops growing because they've secured it. Assets are hidden, diversified, and protected. They know how to secure their legacy and make sure that they and their family members are well taken care of regardless of the outcome. They still have real networks of friends and business partners who will protect them, keep them comfortable, and continue to help them make money because them making money makes them money. At the end of the day, who cares about victims or their reputation? As long as they still make money, they will always have friends. Their punishment looks like silence and exile, not complete destruction. It does not matter where a white man is in the hierarchy. He will always have more power and status. There will be leniency, and they are aware of this privilege. They will use it to its highest potential to get away with crimes or anything that is immoral. The system was created with them in mind. A good example of this is Mr. Donald Trump. After all the convictions and all that has come out, they still voted him in as president. That is crazy. Just crazy. The privilege. Now, black men with power and status. What does that look like? Assets are usually public and easy to strip away. Once convicted, they lose everything quickly. Endorsements, business, networks, all of it, gone. They realize the people around them were handlers, not friends. There to profit, not protect. They are left with nothing, no financial cushion, no real support, no path to rebuilding. Media and public perception ensures that the fall is final. And you can see that with R. Kelly, even Cosby. These people won't come back from that. And let's be real, neither will Diddy. When it comes to the systemic racism layer, historically, black men were framed for sexual crimes, such as assault, harassment, and punished severely, often with death, based on history. An example of this is Emmett Till, killed as a child, accused falsely, and only decades later, knowledge of him being innocent actually came out. This history creates a culture narrative. Black men are predators by default. So when a black man is guilty today, people fall into two camps. A, those who use it to reinforce racist stereotypes. C, they are dangerous. Or B, those who believe it must be fabricated because history taught us so many accusations were lies. And so due to this, we have people like R. Kelly, Diddy, Cosby, who have supporters that believe they are innocent, even though there's a mountain of evidence proving that is not the case. There could be a video and they'll still deny it till they're blue in the face because they're like, you must have framed him. You must have had the context all wrong and only showed us a little bit of it to make it seem as though she didn't give consent. You understand what I'm saying? So they will try to find excuses in their minds to give mercy to monsters. This has happened time and time again. So why should we believe that this is true now? That's their thought process. Meanwhile, white predators are shielded by a different narrative, power, influence, excuses. Their crimes are often seen as individual mistakes. They're just mistakes, not reflection of their race. Black men historically were not guilty, but punished guilty. Today, many are guilty, but defended as innocent because people don't trust the system. People don't trust the system due to history. And don't worry, I'm not leaving you Hispanics out. With all of your tattoos, you are considered black. They're not going to see you as anything other than black, all because you have tattoos. They're going to give you the exact same treatment that they would give a black man, which is why a lot of Hispanics are trying to separate themselves and trying not to be associated with black culture or connected to black culture, because again, with all of their tats, they're automatically under the list of black men. That stigma crosses right over and can imprint on anything that is other, which of course creates more racism between Hispanics and blacks, because again, they don't want to be associated with that stigma that can be easily transferred at any moment. People, the layers, so much. Oh my goodness. White men, guilty or not, are granted the benefit of doubt, silence, or protection because the system was built to preserve their wealth and status. And this is what makes me confused with Cosby, R. Kelly, and Diddy, is that they truly believed that they had the same privileges as their white counterparts. Just because they rubbed elbows with them, they figured they had the same protection. And it's like, buddy, when did you start thinking that you were one of them? I mean, they were nice to you, but why did you think you were one of them? Why did you feel safe? Why did you do all of these things openly? We don't hear about those white powerful men doing this until it comes out. Most likely someone ratted on them. But black men, though, seem to be real open about it. Why do y'all have tapes? Why are the evidence just lined up like that? Why is the evidence being distributed around? What made you think you were gods? And I have so many questions. I have so many questions. Like, who put that in your head? Who lied to you? Who lied to you? You were never one of them, and you would never be one of them. You were just something that could be disposed of. If, for example, something's coming down the grapevine and they heard it from another powerful person that, hey, they're looking into this mess, what are you going to do to deflect from that? They're like, well, shit, let's throw this black man under the bus. He's so loud. He's so open. Everybody in the industry already knows about it. Why not throw him under the bus? Like, why would you set yourself up like that? Why would you set yourself up like that? Why would you be collateral damage to protect someone else? I just don't understand why you would choose to be sacrificed. But I don't think I'll ever get answers to those questions. So let's just move on. Mercy for monsters. Who gets it and why? And at what cost? Very valid questions. There are two core contradictions that make mercy for monsters such a piercing question. One of the core contradictions are the cycle of victim. Many predators were once victims. People use this as a reason to excuse them, saying they were hurt too, as if that cancels out their accountability. If you look at R. Kelly, they had a whole segment on that as well, like he was abused by a child sexually. Then you have now Diddy, they had like little clips about how, Diddy's parents were into these kind of things and brought him into this as a young age. Of course, the sympathy card, right? When you look at women who would offer up their young daughters to men so that they could keep the man in their lives, so that they could go out and show that they have this perfect little family, but at night he don't want to touch her. He wants to touch her daughter instead, who's what, 10, 12, 8? You don't even know. Does anyone care at this point? No. But they'll offer up their daughters to these men just so the man can play house with them. Play house, keyword, play house. When that comes out, these women all of a sudden start crying, saying, I thought it was fine because this happened to me when I was a child. Why would you do that to a child that you're supposed to love and protect? All because you're too lonely and you can't attract healthy men. Why would you knowingly bring in a predator into your home and desperately want to hold on to them so badly that you gave up your child? I have so many questions. If you hated it when it happened to you, why would you do it to your own child? And now begging for mercy by saying it happened to you as a child. Doesn't this always happen to women or little girls? Like, this is normal. No one protected me. No one cared about my feelings. So I just figured it was fine. It's the logic for me. The logic's not logicking for me. It really doesn't. This creates a culture of inherited trauma without responsibility. But being victimized explains the why, not the what now. Choosing not to break the cycle is where accountability gets lost. Now, the second core is the entitlement to mercy. Predators, or those around them, often feel that their suffering earns them mercy. Mothers who offered their daughters to men or predators, they expect society to understand because they were wounded first. Not the child, but the adult who should have went and got some therapy. There's so many psychotherapists out there. I mean, you could have done the work before you brought a child into your trauma. You created a situation where someone you are supposed to love and protect would then take on your trauma, and then you get to watch so you can re-traumatize yourself. You feel that you deserve mercy for that. Very odd, very odd. But victims of their abuse rarely receive the same grace. And that's my issue. In fact, their victims are silenced, shamed, or forgotten, while the predator's pain become the center of the story. Who gets mercy? Why and at what cost? Predators get mercy because society often prefers to empathize with the abusers rather than face the full horror of what they've done. Victims pay the cost through silence, disbelief, or re-traumatization. And when the predator was once a victim, society confused cause with excuses, forgetting that empathy does not erase accountability. So many questions. Why do we hand mercy to monsters but deny it to their prey? Why do we empathize more with their pain that created the predator than with the pain they caused? At what point do we separate understanding from excuses? Mercy for monsters is a valid statement based on what we are seeing in our society. When we look closely, the pattern is clear. Society has always found a way to offer predators more grace than their victims. We explain their behavior. We humanize their pain. We rationalize the cycle of abuse. And yet, when it comes to people they have harmed, we fall silent, dismissive, or even cruel. Victims are told to move on, while perpetrators are given room to be understood. When those predators were once victims themselves, the question becomes even harder. Do we excuse their monstrosity because someone once stole their innocence too? Do we forget that being wounded does not give permission to wound others? Because what I see is not accountability, it's entitlement. An expectation of mercy simply because they were taught to be monsters, as if that erases the damage they've done. The worst part is even the victims themselves providing excuses for their predators. And I say they're predators because they took ownership of them when they started making excuses for them. Sometimes it is fear of not being believed, fear of retaliation, fear of losing family, community, or love. Listen, my advice to you, let them go. Let them go. Choose you. Sometimes it is conditioning, being taught that their suffering is not as important as preserving the reputation of the ones who hurt them. And sometimes it is survival. Because if you can explain away the monster's behavior, you can pretend you are still safe. This shows how deep the conditioning runs. Victims making excuses for predators isn't a weakness, it's survival. It ties to fear, trauma bonding, and even hope that if they soften the truth, so they might protect themselves from further harm or protect others from the shame. Let's be honest, everyone failed them, so why wouldn't they be sacrificed? Now, when we add race to the conversation, the truth gets uglier. White men with power can retreat into their wealth and network, but whether it is a system protecting some and destroying others, the victims always remain voiceless. Their pain is rarely given the same attention, the same compassion, or the same grace. So I decided not to close this episode with an answer. There isn't one. I decided to close with a challenge. Why do we save our mercy for monsters while leaving their victims to bleed alone? Why do we excuse the abusers even as we abandon the abused? And at what cost do we continue to do so? That concludes this podcast episode. Thank you for supporting the Orchid Blooms podcast. Take this time to subscribe, follow. Don't forget to rate and leave a review on the podcast platform of your choice. Subscribe and follow our social media pages, Orchid Blooms YouTube channel, The Ambitious Obsession Network on Facebook, at The Ambitious Obs on Twitter, at The Ambitious Net on Instagram. Share your favorite podcast episode with your family and your friends, and I do hope you have a splendid day.